Would you have believed it if a little while ago I'd have told you that Bobby Kennedy would be on Bill Maher's legacy media mainstream show openly saying that 25% of the American population claim to know somebody killed by a vaccine, and that Bill Maher, who at many times has advocated strongly for the Biden administration, saying quite recently, I'd vote for Biden's corpse over Donald Trump.
If it's Trump against Biden, I will vote for Biden's head in a jar of blue liquid.
Would give RFK an airing as RFK articulates the concerns of many Americans when it comes to the pandemic and the medical measures that were subsequently implemented and in some cases mandated, and in retrospect, in particular, with AstraZeneca admitting in a legal context for the first time that their product does indeed cause side effects, potentially fatal side effects. Is this a turning point? I want you to let me know what you think. Let's have a look at Bobby Kennedy on Bill Maher.
But your vice presidential pick wants to recall the Moderna vaccine. That's the one I got.
Bobby Kennedy barely reacted there, and in his case, it's not because his face has been immobilized by a paralyzing vaccine. He's simply chosen to sort of suggest via his face, yeah, you've took the Moderna vaccine, there could yet be consequences for that.
She's not going to...
Well, do you agree with that? Recall it.
I think I think those vaccines we need to have, again, true double-blind placebo-controlled trials on that. There's 25% of Americans who believe that they know somebody who was killed by a COVID vaccine.
Killed?
Killed. 25% of Americans, 52% of Americans believe that the vaccines are causing injuries, including death. 52%. If you look at the clinical trial studies, the actual studies that were done, that were released, of the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna has not released it. If you look at the Pfizer vaccine, there were 22,000 people in the placebo group, 22,000 people who got the actual vaccine. And the people who got the vaccine had a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of that study.
But that could not be the disease itself?
No, well,
because we know that
if it is, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
Well, it's certainly...
Oh dear. The narrative is changing before our very eyes. You, being a well-informed and awakened audience, will be aware of the various legal measures that were put in place, the indemnity granted to pharmaceutical companies to avoid precisely what's beginning to unfold, the injurious side effects of the vaccines, which potentially include the most injurious side effect of them all, death. Many of you will have been investigating excess deaths. Many of you will have noticed that my nation, the United Kingdom, has changed the way that it calculates and records excess deaths in order to make that number lower because it was so extraordinarily high. You will have noticed, because of the research of Pierre Corey, that insurance companies are now charging higher premiums to working age people because they are dying at an unprecedented rate. Do you know people that suffered vaccine injury? Did you yourself suffer from a vaccine injury? Or, as Bobby Kennedy just indicated, are you one of the 1 in 4 Americans that believes you know someone who died as a result of those vaccines? Now, it's making its way into the mainstream. As surely as that spike migrates from the site, this narrative is migrating from the control of the White House Correspondents' Dinner establishment and right into the heart of American media, because it's unavoidable now, because it's starting to affect insurance company premiums. It's starting to affect the way that legal companies do business. It's starting to affect the medical industry. It's becoming unignorable. And a huge part of that is your awakening. A huge part of that was your direct refusal to just take your medicine. And I don't just mean the literal medicines that they try to mandate. I mean the medicine of the mind, your compliance, your refusal to dumb down, your refusal to lay down supine and just take what they're giving you, your insistence on awakening. Let's get into some of the facts around AstraZeneca, a British-based firm that was pulled, their vaccine at least, was pulled pretty early in the process precisely because there were concerns around clotting. But you know there's a lot more to this story. You know that Moderna has an extraordinary history. You know indeed that bloody wanker
about the benefits of
you just saw running around the streets there, Rishi Sunak. Before he was Prime Minister, he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. That means he's the head of our Treasury. Before he was head of our Treasury, he worked at a hedge fund, and that hedge fund invested heavily in Moderna. That's right. So you know stuff's going on. You know there's a revolving door between the FDA in your nation and Pfizer and Moderna and various regulatory bodies in my country and Moderna. And as far as we know, Pfizer, we'll investigate that more thoroughly. But for now, let's turn our attention to the legal complications and concerns that AstraZeneca are now facing, having admitting for the first time in a legal context that their vaccines cause vaccine injuries. AstraZeneca has admitted for the first time in court documents that its COVID vaccine can cause a rare side effect in an apparent about turn that could pave the way for multi-million-pound legal payouts. The pharmaceutical giant is being sued in a class action over claims that its vaccine, developed with the University of Oxford, caused death and a serious injury in dozens of cases. The first case was lodged last year by Jamie Scott, a father of two, who was left with a permanent brain injury after developing a blood clot and bleed on the brain. AstraZeneca is contesting the claims, but has accepted in a legal document submitted to the High Court in February that its COVID vaccine can, in very rare cases — they're so rare, these cases — if you've got one of them, you should almost count yourself lucky. You should almost start clapping your hands and singing and dancing. Whoopee! I've got a rare blood clot in the brain. You might not be able to clap because your coordination may suffer. It's called TTS, which stands for thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. It causes people to have blood clots and low blood platelet counts. AstraZeneca's admission made in a legal defense to Mr. Scott's High Court claims follows intense legal wrangling. Of course it does. There was indemnity granted prior to the release of these drugs. And remember, bear in mind this. Just think for a moment. See if you can guess. See if you can guess in the comments. Who do you think's paying for AstraZeneca's defense for these cases? Have a little think. Have a little think. Here's a clue. Go find a mirror. We're very happy to bring you our content in conjunction with our wonderful commercial partners. We make good stories out of bad news, but it's difficult not to let all these headlines swirl around your ever-awakening mind at bedtime. Millions of us face sleeplessness. It's an epidemic. It's silently harming our health and well-being. TWC Restful Sleep Formula, crafted by awake doctors, although they can sleep when they need to, like Dr. Peter McCulloch and his chief medical board at the Wellness Company, is the product we want to talk to you about right now. It's an all-natural alternative to melatonin. Did you not know that melatonin disrupts your hormones? This is packed with ashwagandha, delicious, kava, chamomile, and my favorite, passion flower. This powerful capsule has everything you need for deep, rejuvenating sleep. Purchasing supplements separately costs like $120. It's ridiculous. But Restful Sleep Formula offers a 56% saving. Don't just dream of better sleep. Make it a reality. Achieve your deepest, most restful sleep naturally. Visit twc.health/brand. Use the code BRAND. Get you $30 off at checkout. Plus, they all know our adverts work. Everyone's a winner. Let's get back to the content. Sleep well tonight. It could lead to payouts if the drug firm accepts that the vaccine was the cause of serious illness and death in specific legal cases. The government has pledged to underwrite AstraZeneca's legal bills. Now, when you say the government, do you know the government don't have any money? The government's money is your money. That's where they get it from. The government don't have a side hustle. You're their main hustle. That's why they need to be continually engaged in wars. That's why they need you to be terrified and afraid the whole time. So you don't start thinking, I don't know if I want to pay my taxes for all of these wars and for these medical products and to pay for AstraZeneca's legal bills after we paid for the development of the drug in that particular case in the first instance, because AstraZeneca was developed at Oxford University, and you can bet that some of their funding comes from taxation. In a letter of response sent in May 2023, AstraZeneca told lawyers for Mr. Scott that we do not accept TTS is caused by the vaccine at a generic level, but in the legal document submitted to the High Court in February, AstraZeneca said it is admitted that the AZ vaccine can, in very rare cases — they're so rare. Oh, you want to thank your lucky star. You lucky bastard. My dear heaven is to be allowed to get a blood clot from AstraZeneca. You must think your Lord God Almighty. They must think the sun shines out of your ass. Very rare cases. The causal mechanism is not known. Further, TTS can also occur in the absence of the AZ vaccine or any vaccine, just in case there might be further legal cases that are coming up for Pfizer and Moderna, Causation in any individual case will be a matter for expert evidence, and we are right now buying up every single expert we can. Lawyers argue that the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is defective and that its efficacy has been vastly overstated, claims AstraZeneca strongly denies. Well, when they were saying that the vaccine was 99% effective, do you remember that bit? Do you remember Albert Bourla and his moonshot? Admittedly, that was from Pfizer, but do you remember his hubris and his pride? Oh, it might be 100% effective. They were so pleased. Do you remember? Remember how the legacy media, the same legacy media that attend the White House correspondent dinner, softball question after softball question, no analysis, no investigation, a total willingness to support the idea that this has somehow emerged out of a Batcave and wasn't a bioweapon. Extraordinary reporting. Scientists first identified a link between the vaccines and a new illness called vaccine-induced immune, thrombocytopenia and thrombosis, VITT, as early as March 2021, shortly after the COVID-19 vaccine rollout began. The government has indemnified AstraZeneca against any legal action, but has so far refused to intervene. Lawyer Sarah Moore, who is bringing the legal claim, said it has taken AstraZeneca a year to formally admit their vaccine can cause the devastating blood clots, when this fact has been widely accepted by the clinical community since the end of 2021. What about our community? When did your community start to think, this is a bit unusual? Sometime like in midway through 2020, no? There was a little bit in 2019 where we were all very willing to put cans of food on our parents' windowsills. There was a time where we were willing and happy to watch funerals on YouTube and miss babies being born and not visit people in hospital and to do what we were told and to sacrifice travel plans and to ignore the fact that our governments were attending parties, whether that's Gavin Newsom over there in Cali, California, or Rishi Sunak attending the banquets of Boris Johnson, or Keir Starmer, who's the presumed next leader of our country, who had his own beery, boozy events, but he was just working for a better future for you. Don't you see? They're just trying to help you. Why won't you let them help you? Why won't you just do as you're told and let them help you? Why won't you fund AstraZeneca's legal bills? Why won't you just agree that whoever they condemn is the people that should be condemned? Why don't you agree that your freedom is a problem? Why don't you just celebrate the fact that you will own nothing and you will be happy in a materialist hell designed increasingly by an establishment that seems demonically possessed? Our sympathy in that context, this is good. This is a good bit because we're going to get some quotes from AstraZeneca. In that context, regrettably, it seems that AstraZeneca, the government and their lawyers, are more keen to play strategic games and run up legal fees, your money, by the way, those legal fees, than to engage seriously with the devastating impact that their AstraZeneca vaccine has had upon our clients' lives. That lawyer, maybe inadvertently, is speaking for a good many people there. Let me know if they're speaking for you. In a statement, AstraZeneca said, "Our sympathy goes out to anyone who has lost loved ones or reported health problems." Oh, well, I guess that's the end of it then, because, AstraZeneca and hopefully Moderna and Pfizer and Anthony Fauci and the FDA and the various other regulatory bodies and Bill Gates and the WHO, they're all sending out their sympathies to anyone who has lost loved ones or reported health problems. So you've got your sympathy. So why are you still talking? Why are you still complaining? Why are you not sitting down and shutting up? You've had their sympathy. Is that not enough? You've had their vaccine and now you've had their sympathy. What more do you want from these people? Justice? Honesty? Transparency? Clarity? Democracy? Freedom? Well, you're not going to get it from them. You're only going to get that from yourself. And we can only get that from one another in true alliance against these evil forces that seem determined to control us. Patient safety is our highest priority. Is it higher than profit? Let's have a look at a graph and see how much time is spent on patient safety through the clinical trials, and let's see how much time is spent maximising profit. For example, you know that Pfizer engage in stock buybacks. How does that help patient safety? Now, I know we're not speaking for Pfizer, but hey, why don't we bundle together all these pharmaceutical companies the way they bundle together all of their vaccines? One happy little vaccine. This one will do flu and COVID and eczema and alopecia and thinking too much and oppositionism and rebellionism and spirituality humanity an awakening and a refusal to drink down their grim gruel. We got a vaccine for that. We got a vaccine for that. You name it, we got a vaccine for that. The authorities have clear and stringent standards to ensure the safe use of all medicines, including vaccines. From the body of evidence in clinical trials and real-world data, the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine has continuously been shown to have an acceptable safety profile. It's acceptable. We can accept it as long as the profits keep rolling in. You know that this company, AstraZeneca, you might not have heard of them. You might think they're small fry. You wait till you hear how much money they're earning. And regulators around the world consistently state that the benefits of vaccination outweigh the risks of extremely rare. You're lucky if you've got one. They're extremely rare and it's extremely fair. If you got one, it must have come from Jesus. Thank your lucky stars. Thank your lucky cars. Thank your lucky health czars. You've been touched by Jesus. Well, the World Health Organization has said the vaccine was safe and effective for all individuals aged 18 and above. Look at how they're peddling them for babies now. And the adverse effect that has prompted the legal action was very rare. It's so rare. Oh, it's like having a little kingfisher come and land on the tip of your winky woo and just peck you gently. Oh, it's so rare. It's like having a giant panda put on a porn show for you. Oh, it's so rare. It's like Bigfoot and the abominable snowman getting it on for your amusement. Oh, it's so rare. It's like Joe Biden finishing a speech without a fluff or a lie or advocate for a... Oh, it's so rare. It's rare indeed. In the months after the rollout, the potentially serious side effect of the jab was identified by scientists. Lawyers representing families suing drugs company argued that the vaccine was not as safe as the individuals were entitled to expect. AstraZeneca has previously argued in court papers that claims against the company are confused and wrong in law because the law's been built to support companies like yours. In the defense filing, AstraZeneca said the benefit-risk profile of the vaccine was, drumroll please, positive. It remains positive. AstraZeneca is the second largest publicly listed company in the UK. Amazing. They're still doing really well. They're doing really well. How would your business or your work do if once in a while, very rare though, very rare, you killed someone? You think that might affect the bottom line? I think maybe it would. With a market capitalisation of more than £170 billion, that's pounds now. Them's got the Queen on them for now. They could have the King on it soon enough, and maybe not for too long. But these are pounds, not dollary dues. Its chief executive, Sir Pascal Soriot, is the highest paid boss among FTSE 100 companies with earnings close to 90 million. And he deserves every penny. Who among us would dispute the right of Sir Pascal Soriot to earn money? There's just a few clots here or there. There you have it. Bobby Kennedy announcing on TV to Bill Maher that 1 in 4 Americans claim to know someone that's died from a vaccine. Meanwhile, AstraZeneca, one of the biggest damn companies in the world, have acknowledged legally for the first time that their product is injurious. This is seismic because once one falls, the whole damn lot could fall. We were fooled by them once, but perhaps we won't be fooled by them again. Maybe this is the time that we can put aside the propaganda. Maybe this is the time that we can come together. Maybe this is the time that we can find peace between one another and a connection to our land and overcome these institutions of corruption that seek to cudgel us into ignorance and compliance. That's for those of us that aren't too damaged and damned by the products they peddle, the bad food they sell, the filthy media that they fill your mind with. Let's keep our fingers crossed, and that ain't a side effect, baby. I can still move these digits.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.